Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about the introduction to organic spectroscopy. Here, we can discuss about the basics of organic spectroscopy. We know that in the spectroscopy, we are going to do the identification of organic compounds, that is their structure and properties. So, now, let's start with our video. Now, identification of organic compounds is done by two methods, that is classical method and modern method. I will show you the schematic representation of this. See here, identification of organic compounds is done by classical method and modern method. Here, classical method involves several steps. Now, let us see that. First, for a given compound, we have to do a qualitative test. And then comes the quantitative test, and again the next step is finding out the empirical formula. Then we have to find out the molecular mass of the given compound. Then comes the molecular formula of the compound. See how many steps are involved in this. Here in the classical method, I have said that first step is qualitative test. Here qualitative test means it is element identification, that is element identification. Here we are going to identify the element. Now, coming to the quantitative test, here quantity means amount. So, we are going to discuss about the amount of element present in a compound. That is amount of element present in a compound. This is about the qualitative test and the quantitative test. Then comes the empirical formula. Here empirical formula is nothing but simplest mole ratio of atoms in a compound is a empirical formula. Then we are going to see the molecular mass and we are going to calculate the molecular formula of compound. These are the several steps involved in the classical method. Here the tool or the basis of this classical method or the chemical reactions. By using chemical reactions, we are doing this classical method. Tool is chemical reactions. Nowadays, classical method is not in much use. Now we will learn about the disadvantages of this classical method. Why this classical method leads to the modern method. The major disadvantages of this classical method is it is time consuming. The first major disadvantage is it is time consuming. Here I have already said that here the tool is chemical reactions. So we can see that there are several steps of chemical reactions are given for identification of one compound. So it is very time consuming to complete all those steps. So it forms a major disadvantage of the classical method. And second major disadvantage is that if we have taken the compound in grams, we will end up in milligrams. So here the wastage of the compound will take place. So the second disadvantage is wastage of compound. That means if we have taken the compound in grams, we will end up in milligrams. So these are the two major disadvantages of this classical method, and the modern methods are very convenient for us to identify the organic compound. Now coming to the modern method, it is about the spectroscopy. The modern method for identification of organic compound is nothing but spectroscopy. Here the tool is by using the electromagnetic radiations. In the classical method, the tool was chemical reaction, but in the modern method, the tool is electromagnetic radiation. Now, first, let us learn about the meaning of this spectroscopy. Here, spectro means radiation and scopy is measurement. Radiation measurement is the meaning of this spectroscopy. Now, let us see how these electromagnetic radiations will give us the information about the organic compound. Here are the electromagnetic radiations or light. Both are same. Electromagnetic radiations and light both are same. See here is a matter. It is a matter or the compound under study. It is a matter or the compound under study. This gives the information about organic compound. See, when these electromagnetic radiations interact with this matter, that means when this electromagnetic radiation pass through this matter, we will get the information about the organic compound. It is very simple. So, now let us try to write the definition of this spectroscopy. Now, in my definition, spectroscopy uses radiation to obtain information on the structure and properties of the matter. It is a simple definition according to me. Now, spectroscopy is using the radiations or the light. See, it is using electromagnetic radiations or light to obtain information about the information on the structure and properties of the matter. This is about the definition of spectroscopy. So, I will write the definition here. Spectroscopy uses radiation to obtain information on the structure and properties of matter. Now, by seeing this definition, we have understood that how important are these radiations for the spectroscopy. So, electromagnetic radiations are very important for this spectroscopy. Now, let us learn about the electromagnetic radiations and terms used to describe electromagnetic radiation. These things will form the basics of this spectroscopy. If you have to learn the spectroscopy in detail, you should have idea about the electromagnetic radiations and terms used to describe the electromagnetic radiations. So, the names of various forms of electromagnetic radiations are familiar to us. We know that X-rays are used in the medicine. We already know that X-rays are used in the medicine, whereas ultraviolet rays leads to the sunburns. And radio waves are used in the communication. We are familiar with these electromagnetic radiations. You should remember the important point, that is light and electromagnetic radiations are both are same. So now let us learn about the wave-like propagation of light or electromagnetic radiation. That is wave-like propagation of light or electromagnetic radiation. The first important point is each type of electromagnetic radiation, be radio waves, ultraviolet or visible, these are all electromagnetic radiations. These have both the properties of wave as well as the particle. That is, the first important point is electromagnetic radiations, each type of electromagnetic radiations may be radio waves, UV, that is ultraviolet rays, and visible rays. These are all the forms of electromagnetic radiations. These have both the properties of wave and particle. Wave and a particle. That means electromagnetic radiations will behave as wave and a particle. Here, second important point is that Electromagnetic radiation consists of a particles called as quanta or photons. That is, electromagnetic radiations consist of particles called quanta or photons. Here, quanta or photon means it is the tiniest possible particle of the light. That means in the electromagnetic radiations, the tiniest particles of light are present. They are nothing but quanta or photons. I will write the meaning of this photon. That is, tiniest possible particle of light. Now, I have said that electromagnetic radiations will behave like wave and particle. Now, to describe the wave, we use wavelength and frequency. So, to describe the wave, we use wavelength. It is denoted by lambda, and frequency. It is denoted by nu. Now, the basic thing here is we have to know the definition of wavelength and a frequency. Now, I will write the definition of this wavelength and I will explain you. The wavelength is defined as the distance between consecutive crest or trough is the wavelength. See here, the distance between the consecutive crest or trough is the wavelength. So, it is a wave. It is a wave here. Now, according to the definition of this wavelength, the distance between the consecutive crest or trough is the wavelength. Here, crest means maximum value of upward displacement, whereas trough means it is exactly opposite of the crest. See here crest means maximum value of upward displacement. That means here it is the upward displacement, here the maximum value present, and it is the upward displacement, here is the maximum value. And now coming to the downside, it is the trough is the exactly opposite of the crest. So here is the downward displacement, here is a point, and here is a downward displacement. Here the maximum value is this one. This is the difference between the crest and trough. Crest means maximum value of upward displacement. Now coming to the definition, the distance between the consecutive crest or trough is the wavelength. So here it is a crest and it is also a crest. So the distance between these two is nothing but wavelength. If you want to consider this trough, the distance between these two trough is nothing but wavelength. And it is denoted by lambda. Now, here is an important point that we have to learn is units to represent this wavelength. This wavelength of electromagnetic radiation is expressed in the meter. We have to know this conversion, that is 1 centimeter is equals to 10 raised to minus 2 meters, 1 millimeter is equals to 10 raised to minus 3 meters, and 1 micrometer or 1 micron is equals to 10 raised to minus 6 meter, and 1 nanometer is equals to 10 raised to minus 9 meter, and 1 angstrom unit is equals to 10 raised to minus 10 meter, and 1 picometer is equals to 10 raised to minus 12 meters. And these units are very important. This is about the wavelength, that is wavelength of electromagnetic radiation or expressed in meters. So I have said these conversions, these are very important. These conversions may be come in the examination or in the Viva voice. Now we have learnt about the wavelength. Now we are going to learn about the frequency. Now we have to learn about the definition of this frequency. Frequency is denoted by nu. Now let's see the definition of this frequency. Number of complete cycles per second. It is also called as Hertz. Here Hertz, it was named after the German physicist H.R. Hertz. So here the frequency is also called as Hertz and it is denoted by the nu. Now see this definition. Number of complete cycles per second. Here it is a complete cycle. It is one complete cycle. It is a one complete cycle. They said that number of complete cycles per second is a frequency. That is, if this one complete cycle is completed for a second, then it is called as 1 Hertz. If it completes 2 cycles per second, it is called as 2 Hertz. So how many number of cycles completed per second is nothing but the frequency. Now we have learnt about the definitions of this wavelength and frequency. Now we have to know the relation between this wavelength and frequency. Now we know that E is equals to h nu. Here E is the energy of photon. That is, E is equals to energy of the photon. We know that what is photon, and h is a Planck's constant. It is a constant called as Planck's constant. And here nu is a frequency. That is, energy of photon is equals to Planck's constant into frequency. Let's name it as 1. So here you can observe that energy of photon is directly proportional to the frequency. That is, if the energy of a photon increases, then the frequency also increases. They are directly proportional. That means energy of a photon increases means then frequency, that is your nu, also increases. This is the relation between energy of a photon and a frequency. Now we have to know what is this frequency. That is, nu is equals to c by lambda. Nu is equals to c by lambda. Here nu is a frequency, we already know that, and c is equals to, it is a speed of light, that is 3 into 10 raised to 10 centimeters per second. That is, it is the speed of light. And here lambda means wavelength. That is, frequency is equals to speed of the light by wavelength. Now let's name it as 2. Substituting equation 2 in 1. See here, E is equals to h nu, and here E is equals to h as it is. In the new place we are adding c by lambda and we are getting the equation 3. So here we can conclude that if the energy of a photon increases and frequency also increases according to the first equation. Well, coming to the second equation, here frequency is inversely proportional to wavelength. So if the frequency increases, wavelength decreases. So in the last equation, in the final equation, if the energy of a photon increases, then the wavelength decreases. Why? Because they are inversely proportional to each other. So here the main important point here is, if the energy of a photon increases, frequency also increases, frequency also increases, and wavelength decreases. Energy of a photon increases, frequency also increases, wavelength decreases. If the wavelength is increased, frequency is also decreased and energy of the photon is also decreased. Why? Because energy of photon and frequency are directly proportional to each other and inversely proportional to the wavelength. So it is a very important thing. Let's understand something more about this electromagnetic radiation. That is, let's understand this electromagnetic spectrum. First of all, what is electromagnetic spectrum? The entire distribution of electromagnetic radiation according to their frequencies or wavelengths, it is called as electromagnetic spectrum. In the electromagnetic spectrum, there will be entire distribution of the electromagnetic radiations. We know that electromagnetic radiations are X-rays, UV rays, visible, etc. So their distribution according to their frequencies or wavelength is given in the electromagnetic spectrum. Now let's study these electromagnetic radiations according to their increasing order of their energy and frequency. First comes the radio waves. Radio waves has a wavelength from 10 raised to minus 1 meters to 10 raised to 6 meter. Then comes the microwaves, that is 10 raised to minus 3 meters to 10 raised to minus 1 meter. And then comes the infrared from 700 nanometers to 10 raised to minus 3 meter. Visible from 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers. UV rays from 10 raised to minus 8 meters to 400 nanometer. X-rays from 10 raised to minus 13 meters to 10 raised to minus 8 meters. And gamma rays 10 raised to minus 16 meters to 10 raised to minus 10 meters. See here, energy is increasing from radio waves to microwaves, microwaves to infrared, then comes the visible, then comes the UV rays and X-rays and gamma rays. Here, gamma rays are most powerful. That means their energy is more than all of this. So gamma rays having the more energy. I have represented this according to their increasing order of their energy and frequency. If energy and frequency increases, what decreases? Wavelength decreases. So in this order, energy and frequency are increasing, and in this order, wavelength is increasing in the reverse order for the energy and frequency. Why? Because energy and frequency both are inversely proportional to this wavelength. If this increases, this will decrease. This is about the electromagnetic spectrum. Radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible, UV rays, X-rays and gamma rays. These are the wavelengths. Here is the gamma rays. It is very powerful. That means it is having more energy. Then comes X-rays, then comes UV rays, then comes visible and infrared, microwaves and radio waves. And here the visible region is a very small part of entire electromagnetic spectrum. Now we have learnt about the electromagnetic spectrum and electromagnetic radiations very well. Now let's move on further. I already said you that when the electromagnetic radiations interact with the matter or the compound under study. It is a matter or the compound under the study. When the electromagnetic radiations interact with the matter under study, we will get the information about the compound. That is about the structural properties of the compound. So before this, when the electromagnetic radiations interact with this matter, the following results will take place. That means when electromagnetic radiation pass through the matter, it may go inside the matter. If it goes inside the matter, it is called as absorption. So when the electromagnetic radiation go inside the matter, it is in the first case, absorption can take place. If electromagnetic radiation If it goes inside the matter, then the absorption will take place. This is the first thing. Then it may reflect back. If the electromagnetic radiation interact with the matter, it may reflect back. So it is called as reflection. This phenomenon is called as reflection. And next, we have completed absorption and reflection, and it can pass through the matter. It can pass through the matter. So it is called as transmission. These electromagnetic radiations can pass through the matter, so it is called as transmission. Then it can emit the light. These electromagnetic radiation, when interacted with the matter, they can emit the light, so it is called as emission. This phenomenon is called as emission. Then comes the last point. These electromagnetic radiation can also scatter the light, so it is also called as scattering. These 5 things can happen when the electromagnetic radiation interact with the matter. That means absorption takes place, reflection takes place, transmission takes place, emission takes place, and scattering also takes place. So based upon these interactions, we have absorption based spectroscopy, emission spectroscopy, and scattering spectroscopy. These are the 3 types of spectroscopic techniques, that is absorption based spectroscopy, emission based spectroscopy, and scattering based spectroscopy. Let's write it them now. Absorption spectroscopy. Second one is emission spectroscopy and scattering spectroscopy. These are based upon the interactions between electromagnetic radiation and the matter. So these are very important now. Now coming to the first one, that is absorption based spectroscopy. These absorption based spectroscopy, they contain non-degenerate energy states. Here, what is a non-degenerate energy state? It means it is a state differing in both energy and quantum state of a system. It is a state differing in both energy and also quantum state of a system. There are 4 types, that is electronic, and second one is vibrational, third one is rotational, fourth one is spin state. So now let's represent it for electronic. So it is the ground state and it is the excited state. We already know it. It is a ground state and it is excited. And the energy difference is delta E. The energy difference between these two is delta E. So it is a non-degenerate energy state. Why? Because it contains different energy states. Here you can see this is ground state and this is excited state. So they both differ in the energy and also quantum state of a system. So it is a degenerate system. Why? Because it is having different energy levels. And now for rotational. The energy gap is delta E. Next comes the vibrational. And next comes the spin state. Now I have represented the electromagnetic spectrum in the increasing order of their energy to categorize which radiation comes under which spectroscopy. So here highest energy is having for the gamma rays. So gamma rays have higher energy, so they are very powerful. They can reach up to the nucleus. See here, it is a nucleus. It is a nucleus. What does this nucleus contains means? It consists of proton plus neutrons, protons plus neutrons in the nucleus, and here are the electrons, and these are the orbitals. We already know it better. So we already know that gamma rays are very powerful, so can they reach up to the nucleus. This is completed. And then next comes the X-rays. This X-rays energy is less than that of a gamma rays. It cannot penetrate into the nucleus, but it can penetrate up to the core electrons of the molecule. Core electrons are the electrons which are tightly bonded to the nucleus, which are not valency electrons. These core electrons are present closely to the nucleus. See here, gamma rays can reach up to the nucleus, whereas X-rays up to the core electrons. Core electrons. Next comes UV and visible. See here, next comes the UV and visible rays. Here, coming to the UV and visible, the energy of these UV rays and visible rays is less than that of the X-rays and gamma rays. The radiation can reach up to the outer electrons. That is up to outer electrons, outer electron approach. So, this UV visible spectroscopy makes the changes in electronic energy levels within the molecules. That is, I will write the point here. Spectroscopy here is UV and visible. Effect on the molecule. What is the effect of this on the molecule means? Changes in electronic energy levels within the molecule. So, this UV and visible will come under electronic spectroscopy. That is, UV and visible will come under electronic spectroscopy. That is, UV visible and electronic spectroscopy or both are same. Then next coming to the infrared rays. Here the energy of these radiations is less than that of the gamma rays, X-rays, UV visible. So it can cause molecular vibrations. So infrared effect on the molecules, it can cause molecular vibrations. It can vibrate the molecule. You can also say changes in vibrational moments of a molecule. So this infrared will come under vibrational. Why? Because it will cause molecular vibrations in a molecule. So it is infrared. Infrared spectroscopy is also called as vibrational spectroscopy. Now next coming to the microwave. Here lesser energy compared to gamma rays, X-rays, UV visible and infrared. These microwaves can cause the molecule to rotate. That means microwaves can cause molecular rotation. That means these microwaves will come under rotational spectroscopy. Microwaves, that is rotational spectroscopy. Here coming to the last thing, that is radio waves. It has lesser energy compared to all the other rays. So these radio waves has an effect on the molecule, that is they induces changes in the magnetic properties of certain atomic nuclei. You can also say that is they reorient nuclear spin. That means these radio waves can reorient nuclear spin. That means they can cause nuclear spin flip. That is nuclear spin flip. So this phenomenon which form the basis of nuclear magnetic resonance. I have said that effect on the molecule is reorients nuclear spin. So spin state, that is radio waves. This phenomenon will form the basis for nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Here in the spin state spectroscopy, radio waves and nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy will come under this. This is about the non-degenerate energy states of this absorption based spectroscopy. Then next thing is emission spectroscopy and scattering spectroscopy. By this we have understood that when electromagnetic radiation interact with a molecule, it is found that it is associated with several different types of motion. That means the molecule can rotate, can vibrate, or even the electrons can move also. Each of this kind of motion will help us to find out the structure and properties of that organic molecule. Now the next topic is, let's have the basic understanding of the spectrophotometers. Spectrophotometers used to record the infrared, NMR, UV visible spectra are very different. These spectrophotometers will differ from one spectroscopy to another spectroscopy. That means infrared as one type of spectrophotometer and NMR will have another type of spectrophotometer, but they have certain features in common. So let's study them. It is the basic of this spectroscopy. The first thing is a source. Next comes a sample holder. And then next comes frequency analyzer. And then next comes a detector. And next is a recorder. So the first thing is a source. Here source means nothing but radiation. In the spectroscopy, the source used is radiations, that is different electromagnetic radiations. They may be UV, IR, a lamp, a radio frequency transmitters, etc. The radiation forms a source in the spectrophotometers. This spectroscopy is entirely based upon the electromagnetic radiations only. After a source, that is after a radiation, there will be a sample holder. That means this sample holder, it holds the compound under study. This sample holder will permit the efficient irradiation of the sample. This sample holder, it will permit the efficient irradiation of the sample. What is irradiation means? It is exposure of a substance to the radiation. To expose the compound to the radiation, it needs a sample holder. The compound under study is taken in this sample holder. And next comes the frequency analyzer. This frequency analyzer which separates out all the individual frequencies generated by the source. This source will generate some of the frequencies. Here the work of this frequency analyzer is to separate out all the individual frequencies which are generated by the source. Separates out all the individual frequencies generated by the source. The most familiar frequency analyzer is a triangular glass prism, which is used by Isaac Newton for visible light. Then comes the detector. Now in the detector, it will measure the intensity of radiation at each frequencies. In the frequency analyzer, we have separated out all the individual frequencies generated by the source. Now in the detector, measuring the intensity of radiation of each individual frequency. In the detector, I will write it here. In the detector, measuring the intensity of radiation at each frequency, that is each individual frequency. Now by this we can calculate how much of energy is observed at each of these frequencies. That is, it will lead to the measurement of how much energy has been observed at each of the individual frequencies by the sample. Then the final thing is a recorder. It is a pen recorder or computerized data station which gives us initial viewing of a spectrum. Here in the recorder, we will get the spectrum, view of a spectrum. So let's study it once again. First thing is source. It contains radiations. It may be UV, IR, lamp or a radio frequency transmitter. Next comes a sample holder to hold the organic compound. It will permit the irradiation of the sample. That means it will provide the exposure of a compound to the radiation. Then comes a frequency analyzer. In this, it will separate all the individual frequencies generated by the source. A source generates several frequencies. This frequency analyzer will separate out all the individual frequencies. Then comes the detector. In the detector, measuring of the intensity of the radiation at each individual frequencies. At each individual frequencies, we are measuring the intensity. Intensity. It is the function of this detector. So, this permits the measurement of how much energy has been observed. Then comes a recorder. It is a pen recorder or computerized data station which gives us initial viewing of a spectrum. This is how basically spectrophotometers work. This is about the basics of organic spectroscopy. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and support us. Thank you.